Can you spot where the dominoes fell? Let's find out. What's up, domino community? Today, I thought it'd be fun to expose my domino fails. And yes, there are many times when I build a domino project and it does not topple correctly. All right, now disclaimer, if you haven't seen the original video, definitely go check out Dominoes vs. Machines on Heavish 5. I'm gonna be playing these videos in its entirety, and I wanna see if you can spot the fails. Some of these clips are edited, some of them might not be, but take a close look at it. So let's jump right into the first one. So this trick is called the splitting towers, and I thought it would be super cool to make a split ends version of it. So the walls kind of just like fall out onto each other and split into even more. Did you see the fail? Did you spot it? So now let's watch the original clip that is not edited. Oh, it was right at the end. So if we watch this back in slow motion, you'll see that the towers on the far right fall into each other. And those green dominoes actually knocked down some of the clear and created a gap. So the line actually stopped before it could fully go off screen. That totally blew my mind. But looking back on it, I'm like, that's so obvious. Like the dominoes are falling into the line. And I probably should have added a barrier there. It's a little ironic because I added barriers on all the rest of the towers except the very last domino line. And it was just enough to make a gap that the domino line stopped there. I'm still pretty happy with this clip. It pretty much entirely worked. This one tower though, for some reason didn't trigger, which is a little odd. All right, moving on. So this is one of the intro clips, round X, to denote the 10th episode of Dominoes vs. Machines. And the idea was to make just kind of a random setup that highlighted round X. I like the idea of building like a big structure in the back and then the speed wall with the X just crossing through. But the pathing in this is incredibly complex. I wanted to play around with like making the X fall in a more unique way. So I made the middle red, and then I also made another speed wall around the entire X as kind of like a border. And then it falls in different sections. So the X falls on one diagonal and then the next diagonal falls, which then leads to the ball on the ramp. Did you spot the fail, by the way? This one was a little chaotic, honestly. I did not plan out the setup before I built it, which I think kind of makes it more interesting because it goes all over the place, and I had to use like the string trick to like go on top of these platforms, and then like, it was a whole thing. Okay, spoiler alert, there were multiple fails. So let's watch the unedited version. So we have these domino lines falling all at once. That was perfect, right? The domino wall fell really well. It just goes all the way to the end. This part right there. So if we take a closer look at this, when the wall fell, it knocked over this clear field starter, which I was using as a barrier, and that toppled out a domino in the line. I definitely should have taped down the field starter so it can't move. It seemed like the staircase was far enough away that it wouldn't hit it, but I really need to work on making more barriers. I think that's one of my biggest things that I overlook with domino projects. I tend to underestimate how far dominoes will slide or bounce. So I got my yardstick and I went into the setup to tap it again. And then the domino line on top goes all the way around the X. You'll notice some of the dominoes fall off the corner too, which is a little scary. And then the speed wall goes. This is where it gets a little tricky. I don't know if you saw like in the beginning of when the X started falling, the black domino line actually triggered part of the red a little too early, but it was not supposed to topple in this way. So the way it was supposed to work is the entire black speed wall was supposed to fall, and then once it gets to the top right corner of the X, I tied a string from one of the black dominoes to part of the red speed wall, so then it would trigger the X going on the diagonal immediately after that. But unfortunately, it looks like the field starter knocked down part of the red X too early and it didn't topple. So we did have a full stop there. Now, luckily with structures, you can just kind of throw a domino at it. Oh, the speed wall didn't work. So it didn't have enough to make it through the cross. Like the speed wall, when I hit it, it starts fine, but then it just kind of stops. And this is something that I did not predict. Typically when I make speed walls, I'll have a full line of dominoes on the first layer. So this is usually enough to keep the speed wall going. But because there was a speed wall all around the entire X, it made a huge pile and kind of obstructed the domino line on that first layer. And when it crossed through the X, there just wasn't enough momentum to keep the chain running. That one was really complicated. A lot of unexpected things, but you know, I think it's the thought that counts, right? With every project, I'm learning something. I just kind of want to normalize the fact that it is okay to fail. It is part of the process. Those failures are something that you can learn from. All right, let's move on to the next clip. See if you can spot the fail. So the idea behind this clip was to have the dominoes fall backwards. So it's kind of like reverminos, but with domino walls. Did you see it? Now, I did a lot of tests with this ahead of time, but I did not do a full test with all of the walls because I figured, you know, if I'm doing a full test with all the walls, I might as well just build the entire clip and see what happens. Maybe I'll get lucky. The 1x1 towers were fine. The domino lines were fine. But it stopped at the green. Now you might not be able to see this from the video, but I attached the small to large dominoes with clear fishing wire. So when one falls, it kind of just pulls the next domino backwards. And this larger domino next to the red is acting as a weight. Once that falls off the platform, the weight of the wall just wants to go down. So it just tips. And then there's no more weight for the next one. So the orange one tips and then it just continues in a chain reaction. So unfortunately it failed at the green. Maybe this is just because there was too much weight on top of the field starter and the larger domino, like that white domino holding the field starter, is still overhanging and keeping it in place. That was kind of a bummer because it was so close. It was just like 3 more dominoes. The last 3 worked, but then it stopped at the very end. I think I probably should have used a larger domino as a counterweight so it could fall over easier. I used the medium-sized small to large, but I think I probably should have used the next size up. There was just too much weight on the left side, keeping that field starter in place. It was an interesting trick, right? This video, I wanted to take a lot of risk because I wanted to make things that I haven't built before. In order to do that, you gotta be open to the idea that it could fail. Without any risk, I think a project would become pretty boring, and I wanna be learning with my dominoes. I wanna continue to be growing, and this was a really good opportunity to explore what is possible with dominoes. All right, I wanna include this funny clip just because this was literally the start clip. You know the saying, like, they threw a wrench in it? I kinda wanted to play on that because it's like dominoes versus machines. So like the machine is like the wrench, like throwing it at the domino. But on my first attempt of like throwing the wrench, oh wow. Where did it go? Where's the wrench? Today it's stuck in the setup. It's literally stuck inside the structure right now. Whoa. I think I need to throw it harder. It looks like the wrench knocked out a domino, but there was too much weight on top of it that it just stayed together. And actually, that's pretty common if you knock down a structure from the middle or at the bottom. You typically want to hit the structure towards the top so there's less weight pushing it down. In the next attempt, I had to be a little more precise with my aim. And then it finally worked. All right, next we have the green domino wall. Let's play this through and let me know if you can see any fails. So the white line starts, knocks down these field starters, and then the wall starts falling. And guess what it reveals? A thumbs up button. Please give this video a thumbs up for all the fails. It would make me feel a lot better. Did you see the fail though? Okay, trick question. There were no fails. This clip actually worked, but it took a lot of tries. So let's break it down. Now, the way that I built this was kind of interesting because it's meant to be viewed from a very particular angle. You'll see that there's this long gap in the middle of the wall, but if you view it from an angle, you can't see it at all. So it's meant to be viewed from that position. And the way that I built this is by putting dominoes inside of the wall to weigh it down at certain points. It took a lot of trial and error. So let's take a look at the first attempt. So this was pretty close. You do kind of see the shape of a thumbs up, but like part of the wall on the right side was supposed to topple and it just didn't. I think there was too much weight on top of it. This is the second attempt. And then it knocked down the wall early. It just totally crushed the entire thumbs up. The domino bounced, it hit the barrier, which knocked over the barrier and knocked down the outline too early. That one was like a double fail, honestly. So for the next design, I tried it one more time. I also changed the barriers so that you can't knock over the barriers, and I taped them down. And the wall just like randomly stopped on the right. That has never happened before. Why did it suddenly just stop? I think I needed to be more accurate with how I placed the domino. Like maybe put the dominoes more on the edge so that it's easier to topple over. Yeah, that was a really weird fail. The next attempt, I also got rid of all of those ugly backup lines, which I think looks a lot more elegant. And then the whole thumbs up just crumbles down. That one was like pure disaster. Like it literally just looks like a green block fell over. I honestly think it's because I didn't put enough weight inside of the dominoes. So for the next attempt, I added another layer of those flat dominoes on top of the other flat dominoes. So hopefully there would be more weight and it would actually stay in place before it's supposed to topple. Which then leads us to this clip. I think it worked! I was so happy. This took a lot of testing and retesting and iterating and changing the design. In this round, it actually worked. So is it what you expected? Let me know in the comments which one surprised you the most. I think really in doing these videos, it's all about what we've learned. With every failure, you can learn and you can grow from it. Do I need to add more barriers? Do I need to test things more often? Do I need to adjust the spacing and the weights to make sure that it's gonna topple the correct way? I think there's a lot that can be learned from failures, and at the end of the day, it's not really a failure. Also, let me know if you want me to make a part 2 of this video exposing even more of my fails. And I also want to give a shout out to our featured community member, Codeman Creations, who left this super nice comment on the main video. Thank you so much for your support. And as always, I'm Lily Hevish, and keep on building.